to heavy silent. Did you just heavy breathe just now?
Sure, I like heavy breathing.
Okay.
So you don't like me heavy?
No, heavy breathe. Yeah, heavy breathe. Heavy breathe.
Okay. Welcome to BeMoYu Talks with the Buthelezis.
I'm supposed to say yay. Yay.
You're supposed to say that's us. Anyway.
We need a new script writer.
Welcome to BeMoYu Talks with the Buthelezis. I'm actually quite excited today that we're having this conversation. It's more like, hey, finally we are doing this, you know. We for some time we've been talking about we want to have these conversations because that has been like a huge anchor in our relationship, the conversations. So before we start, hey, let me introduce you to the guy.
Hey,
I nearly forgot. There's a guy that I'm with here.
Gosele TV.
So this is Fellow Buthelezis. Hello, Mangaliso Buthelezis. And yeah, he's the husband, the hubster.
My name was Sweetheart.
You are lover, you're sweetheart, whatever that you want to be called on that particular day. So we've been talking about having these conversations for a while. Actually, some people have even asked us to have these conversations, and we like, we finally do it. You know, one of the most positive things that we are going to thank the lockdown for and Corona for is the fact that these conversations are happening. So we are grateful, Corona. So I want to start off by. You wanted to say something, Manila?
Hello.
Oh, cool.
Hello.
Yeah.
Hello.
What's up? This I wanted to just read of what Gosele TV is about. Then we can take it from there because this is sort of an anchor of why we are having these conversations. So Gosele TV is a podcast hosting 3 programs focusing on all aspects of self-love and holistic growth. These are conversational coaching talks featuring guests from a wide range of topics, all culminating healing and enlightenment. These shows, there is BeMoYu Talks with Buthelezis, there's BeMo Active, which is Qigong with Buthelezis, and then there's BeMoYu Talks with the Buthelezis. So essentially, we are focusing on healing the world one heart at a time.
So thank you for doing the conversations, for kickstarting. I've been procrastinating myself to do the things. I've been wanting to do the talks, but I've been procrastinating. Thank you for kickstarting. I'm ready to have those conversations. It's always been fascinating for me how your work collides with some of my work, because mass coach and entrepreneurs, we need to also hear about self-love because of where they come from too. So in the environment, they really play a role. So I'm really grateful for the talks. I really look forward to a great conversation.
Yeah. So before we actually start, what type of work do you do?
So business coaching in the main, but I think the real juice is in how we do it. So since 2012, we've started these companies that we use as practical space for entrepreneurs to learn, to fail, to learn, to fail, to learn, to fail. So that when they come out, they have actual managerial experience. So we have things like a mobile waterless car wash. If you want to be coached by us, we bring you in a business that we understand, that we already know our suppliers why, or that we already know in and out, so that we can coach you on something that we know. So it's a work of passion, because if you want to do things that practical, to move a little bit away from theory and make things very practical, we have to then deal with how much do we really accept of ourselves, what do we think of ourselves, what are the stories that we tell ourselves, where's the confidence coming from to innovate at that level and to really, as a startup, still find your voice, within the greater economy. Okay. That's what I deal with. But to break it down and really make it practical, I just help people to budget. It's a budgeting game for me. If you can budget well, you can run a good business.
Wow. So, yeah, it's about budget. That's it, just one word. Fascinating. Okay. So when we speak about budget, I'm gonna talk about. I know that there's 3 principles that you work on when it comes to budget, right? There's a way of how you break down what you mean by budget.
Let me answer that, but I'm going to go like a Q&A. I'm interested in how you do your work as well, but you're right, that background is important. So how we do it, we've made it so practical that we really speak of budgeting money, time, people. So Masiti culture umuntu, we really just want to know at all times, money-wise, what are the expenses, what is the income? So income minus expenses is a profit or loss. Time, we need to know when are you doing a thing, so that when we commit, when we set our intentions, when we start to do some of the spiritual work that comes with running a business, to change our mindset, to really influence business spaces. And then there's people, which is the most important for us. It's about relationships. It's about who are you going to phone. We like to say to guys, my culture, you're not going to phone Absa. Absa doesn't have a mouth and ears. It won't answer you back. But you can phone Sbongiseni, who works at Absa. So we need name and number. We need relationships. We need to really drive and coach our entrepreneurs. So it's a mixed bag of personal development tools, to help entrepreneurs to understand themselves better so that the confidence is right. So when I speak about budgeting, I speak about budgeting those 3 things in particular. But to bring it more to the personal development side, budgeting is fasting and fasting is budgeting. So I like to teach it that way. Okay, as fast again, because budget, you've been indulging yourself in your addictions, in your whatever. Like variable expenses about manage. So to manage your cash flow, let's go for seeing where are you taking the money? What chows up your money? What do you spend on without planning first? And it's variable expenses. So when we say you are budgeting, we're really saying you are fasting. Start fasting some things. Can you pause on that one? So that sort of a thing. But it's a nice little model to toy around with. Nice. That's why then it works well with your work, because then personal. Yeah.
Yes, I wanted to get to that. So I love the fact that it balances everything out. So I've always been fascinated. I love how you describe the work that I do, because I've sometimes I find it difficult to describe. Because I've always asked, so what is a self-love coach? I teach you how to love yourself. It's it's so self-explanatory. So I always find it weird for me to then delve into that. So there's different aspects of I essentially teach you how to accept both your shadow and your light.
Nice.
And how to interact it and being okay with that. Because for a while I think it's a calling for me, because for a while authenticity was far from me. So I've had to learn to bring it closer to me, and finally I am authentic, So there's certain ways of learning of how to be authentic, because for a while the world itself, we've been having a representative, having someone, having a version of yourself showing up to play a part, instead of just being yourself and just living. So essentially that's the work that I do. I teach you how to, and there's different aspects of, so there's the physical way. I've had to find my own definitions of the type of work that I do. So it's known as a life coach, but I prefer being called a self-love coach so that I know that that's the lane that I want to focus on.
Nice.
And then regarding fitness training and whatnot, I'm a qualified sports manager and a trainer, personal trainer. But I've always been fascinated by the body. So I found I needed to create my own lane without all the other titles that we have. So I call myself a body awareness coach. So because um I've gotten to a place where I'm aware of, I know what to do when my body's feeling a certain way and what movement do I need to make, what breath work do I need to do, how do I then how do I find my balance again, just by listening to my body. And the two intertwine, because for me to get to that space I had to love myself, I had to be authentic. So that's the work, and I find the balance is amazing. Yeah. So I've always liked your definition, especially when you bring it into the business aspect of it, because at the end of the day, a business is created by one person, and that person has to be confident enough to be able to sell themselves, because whether you know we at a space at a place where spirituality needs to be practical, because it's been known as woo woo land, like woo the woo-woos, the planes, the spiritual, the gods, the guides, the all these things, it's been out there. But we are at a place where we are no longer separated. Being spiritual and being yourself, it's one and the same thing. So I've always I like how you want to how to for the entrepreneur to actually know that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So self-love, between a in this thing, you were laughing at me, I'm like, this thing that we're doing is called marriage. It's called marriage love. I'm like, yeah, I don't know why it's so hard for me to say marriage, because I've been saying couple, like our love language. Our love language has always been connecting through conversation. So what does self-love mean to you in a conversation, in a marriage?
Oh, okay. I was just nodding along.
You
Just
were just
agree with what you said.
like, I thought you're getting away with this one. Yeah.
Yeah, like that kid at school. No, who's if you can't see me, I'm not like, yeah. Now, self-love, I suppose it's a very nice way of asking it in the context of being with somebody else, because I would easily argue with anyone that the real challenge is staying together, which has practicalities of day to day. I think even people that really, really, quote unquote, love each other could struggle with staying together, because those can be two very different, things. That we are talking habits, we are talking on a day-to-day basis, how well you get along with another person, how well you let go of some stuff, and not blame so much and not grudge so much, and not be petty with certain things. Those are personal disciplines. That's a choice that you can make every single day when you're with a person. There's no, I don't believe that you just go through it one time and I've made the decision, I'm in this relationship. So I think every day I wake up and you decide every day to be in a relationship. You decide to love somebody else. You decide to actively, and I'm talking about the day-to-day actions that come with it. The feeling is there. The feeling just covers everything. It's always there. You don't need to worry about the feeling. You can feel like you love somebody, but to wake up next to someone, get used to their breath in the morning. Those are practical things. Those are step-by-step things. And this, for me, links with business, because even in business, I find that the entrepreneur can see the vision, can see the big picture, but they don't have the spirit of a manager. The manager that says, okay, for today, this is the time that we have within the day. These are the tasks that will happen. These are the people allocated. So self-love, for me, within the context of a relationship, is really important because it's a agreement that, okay, for me, this is how I love myself. You can feel free to also love me the way that you love me, but this is how I love myself. The confidence to be able to say, this is how I love myself. How do you love yourself? Then it starts as, that bouncing off that, oh, okay, then I know when I'm playing the entrepreneur in the relationship. I know when I'm playing the manager in the relationship. As in, I know when we are focusing on the feeling part of it, how we feel about loving each other. And I know when it's a practical work. When it's but to do that, I'll have to wash some dishes because you have a class that you want to film and we must relieve each other and we have to work as entrepreneurs. The actual doing part of it, that's why I always use SMART goals, because we have to set goals. With every single thing, there's a goal. We must be specific. We must measure the thing. We must know that what needs to happen. But for me, self-love within the context of a relationship is something that really needs to be explored, because as coaches, sometimes, what happens is you meet a lot of people and you coach a lot of people, and we neglect that part of what confidence do they bring to the table. And we want to teach them how to go and sell, how to go and talk to somebody and convince them to buy a product. But if you don't have that confidence in yourself, if we don't first work with how much do you even love yourself, how did you get to what you're doing now? Those questions are very practical, and they require somebody to have a very strong sense of self and really love themselves. That's why I've always said I need you from time to time to talk to my entrepreneurs, especially the young guys. Help them through self-love processes and things that they can do in order to recognize themselves, because we can teach you how to balance your cash flow all we like, but if you don't really love yourself, you'll always self-sabotage. And there's certain ghosts in our closets that we are afraid of, that we can't face. And business forces us to face those things, because you'll enter a room full of suits. You are looking for 2 million. You've never even proven that you can manage 20 rands, but you want 2 million for an idea. And to sell yourself, to have the right kind of confidence, to realize that I'm talking to somebody else, but I come from a place of loving myself. So I'm not in competition with this person. I'm not talking to. So those things, we bring them to the bedroom as well. We bring them to our relationships. That's why it's important to always pause and not compete with you and say, no, that part, that's the role that you are playing. I love myself enough to know what role I'm playing. I don't have to remind you that I'm the man of this house. If I have to remind you, it means I've lost being the man of this house. It's, for me, it's a day-to-day. These are the habits that I choose in order to be present and be as best as I can in the position that I'm in to present.
Wow.
It's a long answer, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a good answer. Well done. That's a good answer. Anyway, I find it fascinating that you spoke about essentially all aspects of a human being within a marriage, because I think what's important is that it's known, it's been said by a lot of couples that when you come into a relationship, especially in marriage, you must be clear of who you are before you then enter into a committee or a partnership. Jesus.
It's like business.
Yeah, like a partnership with the next person. You should be able to be grounded enough for you to get there. And a lot of us, I was one of those people. I came into marriage for me to be completed by somebody else. Yeah, I watched Jerry Maguire
and you remember how I used to feel about it, no.
Yes, so you enter into marriage, but again, it boils back to self-love. I was not in a space where I was loving myself enough to think I'm whole, and it took the relationship to evolve so many times, because it started off from Stelo completes me, and then you get tired of that role of completing somebody else, and then I'm expected to do certain things. I'm the savior. I don't know. The last savior that I know got crucified. I don't think it's fair for husbands or wives to be the savior in the relationship. I don't think it's. I've learned that over the years, but at first I started off like expecting you to like, yeah, love me. Yeah. How are you gonna show me love. You know, how are you gonna love me? I want love, and over the years one has learned to love, because the more I love myself, the more I become a better partner, because then we have better conversations. I stand my ground. I'm not flimsy with um with my decisions. And we tend to do that in relationships where you hide behind the next person. You know, I'm just reminded by my business part in Gosele. So when I started Gosele, at first I started with my sister, right? And then my sister, time went on, and she's like, yeah, I'm not feeling you. And I'm not feeling this. I gotta go. And then I was like, no, okay, fine. So I was given the opportunity to do it by myself, because at the end of the day, the name of the company is called Gosele, and Gosele is my name backwards, which is Lesego, and I wanted partnership. So it was again a confidence issue. This has always been part of my calling ever since I was young. So I wanted partnership for my dream. I wanted partnership. So that's how I entered even in this relationship. I wanted I had a dream, but I wanted to hide with. I was like, yeah, show us what to do, but it's my dream, you know. Show us what to do, Stella. Show us what to. I want you to do. I did the same thing. I continued did that with Muvumbi as well. And for some reason I've always tried to hide behind my partners. So that means that's exactly what I was doing in the relationship, to hide behind.
And when I love her, if I can guarantee you this, just as a guy, I guarantee this: there is nothing sexier than a confident woman. That's just straight up. If we have to be 100, there is nothing sexier than a woman who just knows herself, loves herself, holds her own authority, holds her own. It's beautiful.
Thank you. I think we should end on that note.
Yeah.
I feel like you were complimenting me. I don't know why I took that personally, but I know you were just talking about women in general. But I took that personal. Anyway.
And you thanked me for it.
Sure. I took that personal.
I dig that. Yo, from now on, I'm taking all the compliments from me. You could be walking in a room talking to somebody else.
Oh, thank you. So I'm in the midst of the confidence. That means it's mine.
No, it's a nice one. It's been fun. It's interesting. But I want to talk more like.
I know we should. I'm just joking that the conversation is ended.
No. I'm saying I really want to hear more on the practicals, when you speak about the practicals of what self-love really actually means and things that you've gone through. Because I think, just generally speaking, I like that the conversations that come from a place of experience, that come from a place of practiced, applied information, that come from, I saw it firsthand, I tested it out, and these were the outcomes, type of thing. I want to hear more. And you mentioned healing one heart at a time. I want to hear more about how does one then make that into an actual goal, into a day-to-day. So what happens every day to heal one heart at a time? Because I know you do those. I usually see you do those things. And I look forward to the conversation to hear how you go through processing all of that.
Wow. Essentially, I had to be honest with myself that I don't like myself. There was a moment where you would call it rock bottom, where I was just realizing, hey, Fuchi, why am I running these businesses? Fuchi, why am I in this job? Well, you ask yourself, why am I doing this? Why am I married? First of all, why am I? So you get to a point where you're like, why am I here right now? So it started off from there. So for me to move from why am I here, and discover really why I had to ask myself, have a relationship with myself, because all this time I've been in the body, but not really owning the body, not owning my life. I just I was just automated. I wake up in the morning and I go do whatever that I need, whatever roles that I was playing. And I got sick of that. I needed to, I got sick. I needed to get to know why am I doing these things in the first place. So that's where it started. And then my answers were, and then I got exposed to a book called Mirror Work. So, Mirror Work, Loving Yourself Through the Mirror by Louise Hay. So I'm like a huge Louise Hay fan. So I read that book, and I realized that all this time I've been outside of myself instead of within myself and knowing myself. So I learned how to start having a conversation with myself on a mirror. And those conversations are not the nicest conversations to have. Because if you're not an authentic person, if you don't love yourself, looking at yourself is hard. You just dislike everything. Because when I remember, every time I walked past the mirror, because I would never stand in front of a mirror long enough. I would do it or when I prepare myself, and that was about it. When I'm dressing and I'm preparing to go somewhere, and I would just the job of the mirror was to use for me for the presentation of the next person, and then I walk away. And then this time I had to have a relationship where I stand in front of the mirror and I say, "Hello, Mr. Ho, who are you?" And I broke down the very first time I did that. I couldn't even say, I love you, Mr. Ho. I said, I had to start with, I'm willing to learn to like you. It took me a while for me to get to a space where I was like, yeah, I love you. To even say it like naturally, like this, to say, I love you, Mr. Ho. So you can imagine, if I didn't love myself, how then was I loving you? If I don't love myself, so what was it? What was love then to me? This is why I was saying I was always hiding behind somebody else, using their measurement of love. Because I did that with my parents. I used their measurement of love as my definition of love, and it didn't work with me. I used my sister's definition of love as, because I remember I've always admired my sister, and I've always admired my mom and my dad. I find them like the most confident people ever. Like she just knows like she just knows herself and loves herself, and she's always been confident ever since she's been growing up. She wasn't ashamed that she's a crier. She would cry when she wants to cry, and like she was very clear with herself from a very young age. And with my mom has always been the bubbly person. So I've always admired from it. I'm like, I wish if only I could express myself like that. I could express myself. And I've always attracted people around me that have loved themselves. So I've always liked authenticity from other people, not knowing that that's what I like about myself. So I always looked for it out there. So the very first thing that I needed to do was just say, hey, what's up? Hey, Lesotho, what's up? Who are you? And then I discovered I don't even really know myself. I am versions of so many people, from Aliyah to Missy Elliott to Basitsana Kumalo to Oprah. So I would take aspects of all these people and then make them Lesego, and then I believed that was me, and it wasn't. It was all the other people. The way that I would dance is because I used to record videos like VRC, my video channel and all that. So I used to learn how to move like certain people. I used to analyze people. I used to watch people because I wanted to act like them because I thought they are cool compared to me. So I needed to fall in love with myself. So the practical thing, coming back to the question, was, hello, Lisoko. How are you doing? I love you. So that's the very first thing that you start by falling in love with yourself, having an actual conversation with yourself.
You know what conversation I'm also then interested in? How do you turn that into a business? Because as a business coach, naturally, I'm like, well, I don't mind that you are finding yourself. How do we make money out of it? I don't mean to sound like I'm all for the bag, but rent must be paid. It's practicals of day-to-day bread.
Hey.
So I don't know if you are willing to also speak to how you set up your own business, how you hustle for yourself to figure out making your own websites and making your own stuff. But I mean, I was around you, so I saw you do those things. But naturally, I'd want to hear from you about that process, because naturally, I'm speaking to entrepreneurs. I need to go back to them and say, as a case study, just from looking at what my wife has been doing, this is how you can go about setting up for yourself from no budget to no team to no, just a vision, and building that to the point where there's a team, there's solid structure.
It goes back to confidence. Really, I had to believe in the product itself.
There's still space.
Thank you so much, Mr. B, for the conversation, and I love where we took it. I love where we really took it on in terms of how to love yourself, in terms of what does it mean, what does self-love mean, and in business and in your life. And like I said, my job right now is to make spirituality practical. So you being authentic, you connecting with your inner self, with the God that you show up for. It's actually practical. There's ways of making those dreams come true, like vision boards and certain things, and there's actual ways in business. Because you were asking me about what the business side of it. So there's actual programs that you create that make the business. That make the business. So thank you for having this conversation. It was lovely hooking up with you.
So where do we see this thing? When do we see this thing?
Every Thursday I upload BeMoYu Talks with the Buthelezis. Every Thursdays is a new episode, so it's gonna be once a week.
Should I have put on makeup? I feel like I should have put on makeup.
As time goes on, Shem, you'll put on makeup. You get there. At first, we need to get out of lockdown so you can you can cut your hair, you can shave. Then you can think about makeup. Right now, it's okay. It's like antennas. So thank you so much for your time, and thank you for the questions and the conversation.
Cool. I look forward to doing more of this.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Me? Ngilithanda nonke emakhaya.